Hey guys, Michael the Comic Nerd here on the most prestigious of video sets. Haha, the edge of my bed. Anyway, so the reason I'm making this video today is I figured I'd kind of follow suit because the Venom trailer just dropped earlier this week. And I actually wanted to record this much earlier than now, but I just didn't get a chance to it because it's been such a crazy week playing catch-up. So I did want to talk a bit about the Venom trailer, very much in the same way that I talked about the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse trailer. And I feel kind of bad that I'm kind of picking on Sony right now, but also I don't feel bad because they fucked up so many times. So anyway, I'm going to pretty much do the exact same thing to the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse trailer, which I'm going to, I haven't picked a name for the show yet. I don't know if it's going to be a show so much as if there's a demand for it, I'll do more of these. Like maybe I'll do one like the Shazam or the Aquaman or the Godzilla trailer. But for now, I'm going to do exactly what I did in the last one, which is I'm going to go over what I liked about the trailer. And what I didn't like about the trailer, and the didn't like is really what I want to talk about more though, so this is going to be, section's going to be significantly longer than this one. But yeah, we're going to, if you've seen that video, you know what to expect in this video, so let's talk about why Venom can still go very, very wrong.
We are Venom.
Alright, so, pros. First and foremost, this is the trailer where we've seen the most of Venom so far. The design looks pretty good. It's definitely, I think, the closest we're gonna get in the next few years to, like, really see Venom in all his glory, in costume, with the teeth, with the eyes, with the huge stature. It looks like Venom. Of course, it is still sad not to see the white spider symbol on there, but it makes sense given this universe. Spider-Man's not technically in it. We'll get on that topic later. But for now, it makes sense why it's not there in the context of the movie. Looks really cool. The way he moves looks really cool. The voice is really cool. Tom Hardy's a good fit. Yeah, that's all I have on that point. So next point.
Oh, I have a parasite. Yeah. Name is Chen.
They're positive. Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy, I think, is a good choice to play the character. His accent does take a little getting used to, but I think it's going to work. I have yet to see a movie with Tom Hardy in it that I would say Tom Hardy was bad, regardless of your feelings about The Dark Knight Rises. And someone's doing fireworks outside my window, so I apologize. But Tom Hardy is usually reliably a pretty good actor. He apparently also does the voice of Venom, which still sounds great. And again, just the way he moves, like the way the eye twitches, the way the mouth moves, all that stuff really pairs well together. So with actor and visuals, so all that stuff looks really cool. Other positive, it's cool to see other lesser-known Marvel villains kind of show up. The one in this trailer, I think is Riot, which is not a character I'm really all that familiar with, but I know there's also reference. I think Scream's also in this. I think there's probably a bunch of references to other symbiote-based villains. Their rumor is Woody Harrelson is playing Cletus Cassidy. I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but as of right now, I don't think it is. So that'd be cool to see if this gets a sequel. And I'm sad to say that's all the positives I have. So let's get into the cons. Okay, cons. First one, I'm gonna start small, I'm gonna build to the big one that I'm probably gonna spend most of my time ranting about. The CGI. Now, here's the thing, when Venom's actually moving, when he's actually full costume, it doesn't look that bad. It's kind of when the symbiote interacts with things that are actually there, and when Venom and Eddie are kind of like going back and forth, we see Venom and the symbiote and Tom Hardy on the screen at the same time. That's when it gets in that awkward, uncanny valley territory, and it doesn't look very good. Now, granted, this is still in post-production. I'm still working on this. They could fine-tune it before its actual release. It could get a lot better. I don't know. It's very, very like that's one I'll get to later. I'm gonna save that one for later. But right now, the CGI right now is iffy. It's kind of up there. Next con.
You will be this honest, legless, faceless thing, won't you? Rolling down the street like a turd in the wind.
Okay, so the next con I have is in the writing. Everyone's kind of making fun of the turd line at the end of this trailer by now, and I'm gonna kind of add on to it and say, yeah, the turd line is dumb. Now, I like the voice and I like Venom's mannerisms while he's saying this, but it's still such a dumb line. And it just, to me, the way they portray this character, and we'll get to the portrayal of the character in a bit, they kind of act like Venom is kind of his own person, so everything he says you have to assume is his own mind, his own personality. And it's just kind of weird thinking about like a space alien talking about someone being a turd in the wind. And granted, the pancreas line was kind of cool, but yeah, even then, it's still kind of interesting watching this track for the last one, how that they're still kind of doing how many last minute changes they're making. And you can tell they're making changes as they're getting criticism about it. Perfect example. The reason I know that is because in this one they call it symbiote, but in the last trailer they call it symbiote, and you know they changed in this trailer because I got so many people bitching about it. And that leads me to my next con, the villain. The villain in this movie is Riot, and again, I like that they're using a more obscure character for this. My problem is the actor playing the villain does not look intimidating at all. He looks like the secretary to the main bad guy. He does not look threatening. He doesn't have presence. He looks kind of wimpy, quite frankly, which maybe could be the point, but the way this trailer plays it out, it acts like they're going for like a Norman Osborn kind of thing, and he doesn't carry that presence. He doesn't have that oomph. And when you see him in the actual symbiote, when and I'll get to the symbiote thing in just a second. He doesn't look threatening. He doesn't look I have a hard time believing he has this. Like, he somehow made it to the top of the food chain in this company, let alone has like can rock a fucking symbiote. My other main issue with the villain, and this is the problem you run into with this making a live action adaptation and almost being too faithful to source material, in the fact that Riot and Venom look so much alike that when they're actually fighting in the trailer, you really have to pause the fucking trailer to understand what the hell is going on. I mean, just look at the screenshot. Now, if you can honestly tell me you can figure out what the hell's going on in that in the first 5 seconds, I don't fucking believe you, quite frankly. It's just a mess of splooge everywhere. It is so chaotic, and I have a feeling a lot of the last fight's gonna be that way, and it's just gonna make it impossible to tell what the hell is going on. This is where it's really important that most of the other symbiote villains have a different color scheme, because if because you have black and slightly lighter shade of gray, and you have those two fighting. So again, when the actual fight scene's gonna happen in the movie, it's gonna be impossible to tell what the fuck's going on. So that's gonna get old really fast. Next con.
Look into my eyes, Eddie. The way I see it. We can do whatever we want.
Okay, and this is where I have to address the elephant in the room, which is the characterization of Venom. Based on what I've seen in this trailer, does not inspire a lot of faith and confidence in the actual movie. And I think I kind of mentioned something similar into the Spider-Verse trailer, where I'm worried they're focusing on the wrong things to adapt to the big screen rather than what makes the character interesting. Now, to discuss what makes the character interesting, I have to talk with the other elephant in the room, which is Spider-Man. Now, of course, everyone who's a Venom fan knows that Venom is very ingrained into the character of Spider-Man. His origin is so deeply, deeply tied that it's still questionable and to be seen whether or not it can actually hold up on its own without him. Now, a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people defend this. This movie already has like a bunch of defenders I know are going to defend this movie whether it's good or not. Just because they have a bad case of I want to like it. And they say people that defend Batman vs Superman, people that are already preparing to defend Aquaman, just because they want to like it, therefore they're going to like it, goddammit. So, in this particular case, in the comics, Spider-Man is, the symbiote goes to Spider-Man first, and he becomes really attached, and symbiote and Spider-Man really really do form a bond, not just in physically, but also kind of an emotional bond, because in the context of this original series, the symbiote is like the first major exposure to like Earth and humans. I'm not including the Deadpool thing, but I'm just focused strictly on Spider-Man right now. It's like he's learning how to be human, and he uses Spider-Man as a model for that. And in his own way, the symbiote kind of tries to help him. He's like a toxic lover, pretty much. Now, I don't want you to get your mind into symbiote fucking, but now you're thinking about symbiote fucking. But anyway, so by the time that Spider-Man realizes symbiote's bad for him and it's caused to do his bad things, he rejects it, and it goes into Eddie Brock, who already hates Spider-Man for other reasons, and that's why the symbiote and Eddie Brock bond instantly and so strongly, is because they share that hatred of Spider-Man. The most interesting thing about Venom is the addiction to hate. Because Venom is essentially, the symbiote Venom at the very least, is essentially is a stilted lover, a very pissed off ex. And Eddie is the rebound. Eddie Brock, and that's another reason why he resents Spider-Man, is because he loves the symbiote, but he's also fully aware that he is the second choice. and that feeds into his hatred of Spider-Man. And that feeds into the interesting aspect of the character. It's talking about it, like the character's main motivation for a good chunk of the Eddie Brock run, not necessarily when Matt Gargan came around, was the fact that it was all about the hate and the addiction to the hate, and how Eddie Brock just hated him because he needed to hate Spider-Man because that was the only way the symbiote would stay with him. Originally, and there was the whole thing later on with the whole cancer thing, but that's a whole nother topic. I'm at the beginning of this character's creation. That was the motivation. That's what stayed true for majority of the time. Now, later on, yes, the character did move on to his own series, but even then, Spider-Man was always a lingering presence in that, and it was his motivation up to that was always hatred. Even when he tried to be the good guy, he was always hating something. Of course, like in the more violent '90s era, he did become more violent. He did like bite people's heads off, or like I don't know if that was in the Venom '90s series or that became more prevalent when Matt Gargan took over and he just straight up ate people. But either way, Venom the comics did definitely turn more into like cannibalism. He ate people, he ripped people into shreds. There was a lot more bloody R-rated material to it, and I feel like that's the part that the movies are focusing more on, because there's a lot of talk about how Venom's gonna eat, like, what was it, eyes, lungs, pancreas, or whatever that was, and later on it's like, we should arms, your feet, and eat a face right off your head, and be like a turd in the wind, or whatever. It's much more focusing on the graphic part of it, rather than the hatred part of it. And I feel like the hatred part of it is it's, again, the most interesting part of the character and what people kept kind of gravitating towards. Even like Flash Thompson Venom, that element was prevalent up until they kind of rebooted the symbiote. Literally. Because again, the character at his start, when he was just bonded to Spider-Man, was not inherently evil. He became corrupted by rejection and the strong hatred that Eddie Brock held at the time. So it's about corruption and hatred and bitterness. That is Venom. That's the most interesting fact, like the most interesting details about that character. I don't see any of that in this movie. Based on what I see in the trailer, it seems like just Venom is inherently evil. He immediately just wants to eat people. He wants to cause a ruckus. He wants to do bad things to people, good or bad. And it doesn't strike me as the people that make this understand the character. So you have another strong possibility of a case where they're gonna make a movie, but they're not gonna make a good adaptation because they don't really understand the character. So it kind of does what Justice League did to a certain extent, where they'll throw in fan servicey shit to try to disguise the lack of depth and plot, and try to hide the fact that they don't know what the hell they're doing. And I don't care what anybody says, Sony doesn't know what the hell they're doing with this. They're throwing in buzzwords and hoping that that's gonna keep people's attention and get butts in seats. That's all it is, and you can tell how desperate they are to keep Spider-Man stuff without Spider-Man by just how many fucking movies they're announcing. Like there's I think not officially canceled, but pretty much canceled Silver and Black movie, like the Kraven the Hunter movie they just announced, the Morbius movie. Although actually I can see Morbius kind of working on his own. But seriously, Kraven the Hunter, come on. It's like, these are characters that are only really interesting when they're facing Spider-Man, so, or some kind of superhero, so just give these people this whole movie, it makes no fucking sense. But I digress. Well, not necessarily, because that's kind of the point where it's like, so if you're gonna take a character that admittedly is really popular and is gonna get a lot of people in there just because it's Venom, but you're doing it in a way that doesn't do justice to the character, so what's the point? Now, granted, I hope, again, same with Into the Spider-Verse, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that turns out it's actually pretty good. That being said, if it is good, that also means we won't get Venom in the MCU, which would be a massive disappointment. This is another case where I just don't think Sony understands what they're doing. It just shows that they're just saying, like, well, they like this part about the character, just emphasize that, but they're not getting people in the right, they're not getting the writers, they aren't getting the directors that actually study and understand what makes these characters good. And until they do, these movies are just gonna keep sucking. I mean, that's what happened the first time around with Venom. And even then, honestly, this is gonna come off as bad. And I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this. I'm not saying the actor is better. I'm not saying it looked better. But Sam Raimi had a better understanding of the character of Venom than I feel like this movie does. And I'll see you in the hate comments. By the way, I'm not defending Spider-Man 3's Venom. It sucked. We all know it sucked. but at least there was some hate there for Peter Parker, or anybody for that matter. In this one, Tom Hardy just looks like a druggie, which again could play in the character, but again, you're taking the least interesting parts about it for the sake of shock value. It feels like this feels like an edgy, like hey, look at me, I'm edgy, whoa, we're gonna be R-rated, we're gonna people like get their face like ripped off and stuff. We're edgy, we're cool. Yeah, go see our movie. We're Sony, we don't pull punches like that Marvel shit. Yeah, so that's really my biggest concern about Venom. Again, hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but I'll be pleasantly surprised if I am wrong. So that's all I got for this one. If you guys like this one, let me know in the comments what other recent trailers came out you would like me to take a look at, give my pros and cons on. Maybe one day I'll actually do one where I had more pros than cons for a change. On that note, I might do a Shazam one. I haven't decided yet, but yeah, that might be one I do in the future. Maybe Aquaman. If really any of the trailers that came out at Comic-Con. So, in the meantime, hope you guys like this video. Make sure to like and subscribe and all that shit. And I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.